It's been getting pretty damn chilly where we are recently. As such, we've been spending a good portion of this week chopping wood for fire. Now, we do have heating, but honestly, I like using fireplaces. There's just something so warm and comforting about them. Not to mention, wood chopping is a guaranteed way to increase one's physique. Don't get me wrong, I'm already a pretty well built guy. Working at Formaggio's required me to do a lot of heavy lifting, boxes and other things. However, none of those left me with blisters on my hands. That's what happens when you don't wear gloves while doing it, a certain kind in particular. As I've come to learn, brute force is only half of it. The other half is precision. Even though it took us a while, Nick and I found our rhythm and now we have plenty of kindling. I hope we get some snow this year. It didn't happen often back in town, although that's probably for the best considering the problems that we have. Icy roads would not have helped to alleviate them. Anyway, now that the weekly update is done, I'm going to continue where I left off. Another thing that's helped us, put simply, is unity. We've been able to overcome dangers by working together. Unfortunately, that wasn't an advantage we had at the time. I bolted awake. The last thing I remembered was the car going over the edge. Then it smashed into something, followed by all of us falling out of it. I also recalled sliding down something and passing out once I hit the end of it. It was pitch black, so I could only rely on touch to learn of my surroundings. I felt something warm run down my face and discovered it was blood. At the very least, I could still walk, so nothing was broken. In that regard, I could count myself somewhat lucky. Feeling around, I also found my axe and machetes. Thankfully, they were still intact. I thought about calling for Carl and Nick, then decided against it. I didn't want to take any chances of drawing the attention of something that might be lurking in the darkness. All I could do was keep moving. Eventually, I came across some light in the distance. It turned out to be caused by a torch. Why it was there, I had no clue. I was just grateful to finally have a light source. Something was unusual about it, though. I knew that as soon as I touched it. I don't know how else to explain it other than it seemed to have a mind of its own. It flared up, becoming bigger when I grasped it. The flame went from orange to red. It almost felt like meeting a cat, unsure of whether or not it trusted you. Questions as to how it was alive could wait, although I was willing to bet Indiframus was somehow the cause of it. I kept moving, hoping Carl and Nick were still in one piece. The torch revealed symbols along the wall. I paused to study them. They weren't any I recognized. The best way I can describe it is each symbol resembling a star. These weren't the only ones I came across. In fact, there were hundreds, maybe even thousands. That was merely what I saw. For all I know, they could have been millions or even billions. The weirdest one I saw resembled various kinds of teeth. I got to another lit-up area. This housed a carving of a knight. It seemed to be humanoid with spiked armor. It held both a sword and shield. Past it was a lever that I pulled. Part of the wall slid open. I took solace in the fact that I was at least making some progress getting out of there. This was short-lived with what I heard next. The carving of the knight was crumbling. From it, another noise reached my ears. It was growling. The debris shook, and from it shot out a dark purple armored hand. The knight rose from it so tall my head only came up to its chest. I could see multiple glowing yellow eyes within its armor, attached to an ever-writhing shape. What its appearance was without it, I never want to know. Even without its weapon, each spike was long enough to pierce right through to my heart. To make matters worse, it was coated in some kind of poison that meant even just a single prick would most likely end me. Stay back, I warned, drawing one of my machetes. Don't make me use this on you. With a single swipe of its sword, it cleaved off the blade of my machete. Ah, fuck, I said, glancing down at what was now only a handle. It brought its sword down towards me. I yelled, leaping out of the way. The ground shook when the blade hit against it. The strength it possessed was frightening, to say the least. I knew it could easily crush me if I let myself get caught by it. That was something I was going to fight tooth and nail to avoid. I bolted through the door. Even though I couldn't fight it, I was confident I could at least outrun it. The armor it wore seemed pretty heavy, so I thought this would be a cakewalk, or should I say a cake run. Anyway, my hopes were shattered when I glanced back, seeing that it was keeping up with me. I cursed, running faster. It tried to decapitate me, but I managed to avoid it by ducking. Keep in mind, I could only see what the torch illuminated. For all I knew, I was about to run head first into a wall. It was like being caught between a rock and a hard place, or in this case, an eldritch abomination knight and a hard place. I was almost at my limit, because I could feel my body beginning to give out on me. Up ahead, I could see another light. It was coming from the gap of another door. I fought against my fatigue. The knight tried swinging at me again. I dodged again by sliding forward, going underneath the gap. It led to water below that I plummeted into. Oddly enough, the torch's flame didn't go out. It was still very bright, even underwater. I was afraid to resurface, since the knight might have seen me. I waited what I hoped was long enough for it to cease its pursuit of me, then poked my head above the water surface. Luckily, it was no longer there. I swam to the nearest surface, and after climbing onto it, collapsed onto my back. "Fuck you, Indy," I murmured aloud through heavy breaths. Once I got done wringing as much water as I could out of my clothes, I continued on my way. The path I was walking slanted upward. That allowed me some optimism in the possibility that it could be leading to an exit. Guess what it led to? Another fucking room. This one contained 4 doors, each one with a symbol over it. The first symbol was a clawed hand. The second was a star. The third was a giant serpent wrapped around a meteor. And the last was of a horn-spiked skull that seemed to be grinning. I stared at them, trying to decide which one to take. The star seemed the least ominous of all of them. Then again, that could have been luring me into a false sense of security. As I was figuring out which one to take, the skull one slid open. To my surprise, Carl stood on the other side of it. "Holy shit, Carl, you're okay," I exclaimed. "I am glad to see—" I knew something was wrong when his eyes grew wide. I was about to ask him what was the matter, then without warning, he gave my face a hard punch. "That's all for now. I'm going to make use of that firewood and roast some hot dogs and marshmallows. Later, everyone."